I love my mom. Seriously, my mom is a great person. I learned as my son grew up and, became a young adult that parents always love their children, but it's a real special gift to also like your children. In the same way, I've always loved my mom, but I learned as I became an adult and then a parent myself that my mom is also just a fantastic person. And I also really like my mom. I've always had it pretty lucky when it comes to Mother's Day. I didn't really encounter any problems with Mother's Day until I was in the ministry, and I learned that many ministers leave this one Sunday to the worship committee, or a guest preacher, or an intern. I hadn't thought about this before. And even though I knew from my own life and friends and family that mothering and motherhood has many different facets and stories, I didn't really have it hit home until I was in the ministry. After a very traditional Mother's Day service in the early years of my ministry, a very distraught member of the congregation came to visit me in my office the week following the service, and told me her mother was terrible, abusive, that she and her siblings had to be put in foster care. She said everything's always so happy on Mother's Day, and mothers are great, and let's have flowers and cake, but that's not Mother's Day for her. She just had so many mixed feelings about it. Made me think of a friend I had growing up whose parents divorced when they were young, as mine did, and when the mom remarried, she married a guy who abused them and their siblings. And, sometimes, even though we wish it weren't so, our relationship with mom is strained or even absent. If you're a child estranged from your mom, or a mom estranged from your child, we see you this Mother's Day. My birthday's in May, and it always falls near Mother's Day, so I'm never in danger of forgetting Mother's Day or letting it be less of a priority. My parents divorced when I was 10, my brother wasn't quite 7, and although my dad wasn't completely absent, I was raised by a single mom. And like most children, I didn't realize until I was older what an amazing feat this was. And it wasn't until I was raising my own child that I understood just how difficult it was. How wondrous that my mom pulled off all that amazing mothering. And what a trial and sacrifice it was for her. This year I got her a throw pillow for her couch that says, "You can't scare me, I raised 2 boys." If you're a single mom or the child of a single mom, we see you this Mother's Day. As some of you know, I'm going to be away in early June in Oregon for a family funeral. My wife was raised by her grandparents, and her grandmother, who recently passed away, and her grandfather, who died at the turn of this past year. And they were also, in addition to being her grandparents, her mom and dad for a lot of her formative years. If you're a grandmother doubling up as a mom, or you were raised by a grandmother mom, we see you this Mother's Day. Years ago, when my friend Claire was pregnant, I went to a large chain bookstore where I was living and looked for a baby book as a shower gift. Someone had given us one when our son was born, and we put in the information about, parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and first doctor's visits and updating every big event and holiday with photographs and notes and names and dates and who was there. And later on, we added a photo when our son started school, and eventually the novelty wore off. But we did have quite an impressive book of those early years. And I wanted to give that same kind of gift to Claire. So there I was in the parenting section of the bookstore, and I couldn't find one parenting book. Well, they had quite a few, but none of them would work for this child. For all these baby books were wrong for her. All of them wanted to know the baby's mother's name and father's name, mother's genealogy and father's genealogy. But this child would have 2 moms. Claire's wife's name is Sarah. Angry and disappointed, I went home. A day or so later, it occurred to me I could look for one online, and I did and found one, and that was great. The big mistake at the bookstore, however, wasn't the bookstore's, it was mine. I shouldn't have left without going to the clerk or manager and asking why the store didn't stock books for babies with two same-gender parents. I needed to buy one for a friend and they didn't have what I needed. They had a section on gay and lesbian literature and gay and lesbian issues, but no baby book for same-gender parents. Why, I should have asked, but I let it go. It can be easy to let it go. You don't want to make a scene, you let something controversial pass, but there are simple and respectful ways to call people's attention that the way things are is not the way things should be. If you are a same-gender or transgender parent, or the child of same-gender or transgender parents, we see you this Mother's Day. My dad was adopted. His mom and dad died when he was 2. The woman that adopted him died when he was 10. And when his adopted dad remarried, that woman, his second adopted mom, died when he was 18 over in Korea with the Marines. Mother's Day was always difficult for my dad. I didn't think a real lot about adoption until I did some specific training in marriage preparation and education a number of years into my ministry career. And one thing I learned is that infertility is much more common than people think. And rarely, if ever, does a couple talk about it before they go to get married. And talking about adoption is equally rare. The CDC says about 10% of women in the United States between age 15 and 44 have difficulty getting pregnant or staying pregnant. And it's not just that infertility is a woman's problem. Both men and women can have problems that cause infertility. And 1/3 of infertility in couples is caused by women's issues, another third by men's issues, and other cases that are a mixture of many different factors. Whatever the cause or reason a couple can't have children, infertility is another thing that makes Mother's Day difficult for some people. If you celebrate a mom who adopted you, or if you adopted a child, we see you this Mother's Day. If you are having difficulty having a child, or if you've had difficulty having a child, we see you this Mother's Day. I have a dear, dear clergy friend who was at one time a foster mom. 2 boys. Eventually the boys were reunited with their birth mother, and my friend still mourns their loss. Bless her for her willingness to be such a mom. At any point in time, there are about 500,000 children in foster care in the United States. And each year, the children turn over rapidly with just over 200,000 entering and 200,000 exiting foster care every year. I served as a court-appointed special advocate, a CASA, for children in the Worcester County Court District in Massachusetts for a number of years. I met with children and parents and reported to the court what I saw in terms of parents wanting to be reunited with children, granted custody, what was going on in foster care, and what might be the best interest of the child. It was at times heart-wrenching work, whereas often as you witnessed things work out, you witnessed everyone lose, the children, the parents, the foster parents, everybody. If you were or are a foster mom, or if a foster mom parented you at some point in your life, we see you this Mother's Day. One of the many origins of Mother's Day is Unitarian Julia Ward Howe's efforts to establish a Mother's Day movement for peace so mother-sons stop killing each other. In his well-known song, What's Going On, Marvin Gaye sings, "Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying, and brother, brother, there's too many of you dying." And Ella's song, Sweet Honey in the Rock, sings, "Until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest." And still, decades after these songs were first written and recorded and released, we still sing these songs one way or another. We stand out on Sunday, we organize, we vote, because too many mothers' children are still killed for the color of their skin, and too many are still gunned down while at school. Too many mothers' children die too early due to violence and illness. The most difficult day of my ministerial career by far was the day I had to lead a memorial service for a 1-day-old baby. The 3 leading causes of death of children under age 14 in the United States are cancer, firearms, and accidents. Unfortunately, the firearm deaths include a total of that number being 1/3 of those are suicides. It's heavy. If you are a mother of color, we see you this Mother's Day. If you are a mother who has lost a child much too early in their life, we see you this Mother's Day. Although Mother's Day can be difficult for many reasons, it can also be joyful for many reasons. Even if we've had a difficult time with Mother's Day, the story of Mother's Day has a multifaceted history, it has a multifaceted reality, and as a story, both for Mother's Day in general and for our own story of Mother's Day, we get to keep writing it. We get a family of choice. We get to have moms and mother-in-laws who are wonderful moms. We have aunts we consider moms, a special next-door neighbor who became the mom we never had. Our story as a child and as a parent is an open-ended one. And we can always write a new chapter, even if we can't rewrite a past chapter. Even though part of the story might have been rough, there are as yet unwritten chapters and adventures in this story of Mother's Day. Chapters in which we get a mom we've always wanted, and chapters in which we get to be the mom we've always wanted to be. We celebrate and recognize the reality that what was once considered only women's work, housework, childcare, is real work. We get to support and recognize all kinds of moms and support anyone who finds the day difficult. We get to give moms of all types gifts and flowers and take them out to dinner or make them a meal and recognize all they do and have done for us. We can recognize that mothering is done to us by special people in our lives of both genders, coaches and teachers, and all the people who end up caring for us in one way or another as we move through the story of our life. And we can add in a little call to action to stay involved in difficult issues that are important. Universal health care that includes mental health care and dental coverage, public child care and early education programs, free public education through college, sane gun laws, dismantling white supremacy culture, and the right to choose to be a mom and the right to vote. I believe, creating a better community for moms is creating a beloved community for all of us. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.